Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Adapt Your Customer Service Department to Home Working and COVID-19 Pandemonium. Thank you all very much for joining us today. I'm Scott Cormack, Global Event Director here at the Insight Group, which is part of the Reuters Events family. I'll go ahead and keep the introduction brief as we have a panel of superb speakers today who I know are eager to kick things off. We have some crowd favourites who some of you will remember from our customer service summits. First up on the panel today, we have Martin Lampman, who is the Director of Customer Support Operations at BCLC, which is the British Columbia Lottery Corporation. He brings over 25 years experience in operation management and crucially for this webinar, ran the home working pilot at BCLC. Then we have Rami Sarabi, Executive Director of Global Customer Service at Tarte Cosmetics. He has spoken at multiple Insight events and his experience working for luxury brands include Rolex and La Maison du Chocolat. Rounding off our trio of panelists today is Natalie Dowle, who heads up customer care for the Americas at the Financial Times, a fellow Brit who now joins us from New York, where she heads up customer care for B2C and B2B subscribers in the Americas. Finally, we're glad to have our good friend at the Insight Group, Nicholas Zeisler, Principal at Zeisler Consulting and former Director of CX at HP, joining us as the moderator for today's webinar. Before we kick things off, I'd just like to highlight some quick pieces of housekeeping. There are over 800 of you registered for the webinar today from a host of different countries and exciting brands such as Expedia, Colgate-Palmolive, Verizon, Foot Locker, Wells Fargo, Ralph Lauren, Emirates, and many others. I'd like to welcome you all to today's webinar. It's really great to have you here and look forward to your expertise joining us. In addition to this, please do let us know in the chat function that you should see on your screens if you have any questions or even any feedback or opinions. We welcome all of your interaction and we will incorporate this throughout the webinar. Finally, today's webinar will be recorded, so do keep an eye out for that in your inboxes over the coming days. Before we get into the panel discussion, we thought it'd be a great idea to ease us all in with a really quick poll to find out a little bit more about your biggest priorities right now. So as you can see on your screens, which of the following is the biggest priority for your team right now? Adapting to home working, finding and driving new efficiencies, adapting your care provision to support new business models, and understanding how your customer needs have changed. So we'll give you a minute or so to fill that in and we'll discuss the results of that before we get into the panel. Okay, so we're just going to close up the panel in sort of 3, 2, 1, and the results you should now see on your screens here. So very close at the top here between understanding how your customer needs have changed, coming out as a slight winner, closely followed by finding and driving new efficiencies and also adapting to home working, and then just slightly behind adapting your care provision to support new business models. So handing over to you, Nicholas, are these results what you would have expected from this poll?
Yeah, Scott, I think those are all pretty good choices. This makes a lot of sense. I think that a lot of these topics are kind of interrelated. Excuse me. And I think that a lot of this is going to come out in the conversation that we have with Martin, Natalie, and Rami today, because that's really where we are in this brand new world. I love finally, after all these years, being able to be part of a pandemonium. As a child, I'd been accused of it by many teachers, but now I actually am part of it. So I think as a result of that pandemonium, we're going to look at having to address really all of these things. And I'm not surprised that the results are pretty evenly distributed here. So with that, let us move on into some of the questions. I asked the panel about this poll first. Martin, what are your thoughts on this, and would you have made a choice? Which would have been your choice on the survey?
Hey, Nicholas. Yeah, I was really leaning towards the understanding how the customer's needs have changed. I think what we're seeing today, particularly from a retail standpoint, how much things are changing and customer demands are. With restaurant businesses going in different directions, we see more people going to stores, more people home baking. It's completely changing that landscape. So
absolutely,
that's where I was really leaning towards. Yeah.
Yeah, Rami, what are your thoughts on this? What would you have gone for on the survey?
I mean, I love that understanding the customer needs, how it changed, because truly there is a shift in the customer needs now that retail is almost paralyzed. And I come from strong retail industry, retail companies, and I see the shift into e-com happening. I mean, we were already in that mode, for the past, I don't know, 10, 15 years. And now more than ever, like, you need to run a smooth e-com operations. And with that comes the support from customer service. You have to be really top notch. So a customer going into a retail store, the waiting time is not usually, especially if you are talking about premium and above brand, the waiting time there is not that high. If not, you are attended to immediately. Think about that in a call center setting. That same customer is coming to you on your website and needs help and needs, that advice. Think about all the KPIs, how you need to adjust that, and really have a strong support system and customer care organization to fulfill these needs. So definitely my top choice in that survey.
Yeah, we're really in a position now, aren't we, Rami, where we're looking more at solving customers' problems than selling whatever our stuff is, right? And this gives us an opportunity to settle back on that focus,
And
right?
also, and there is also the educational piece. Like, you need to be able, the bandwidth, in retail, you have this massive bandwidth of physical interaction. You have the product in front of you. You have the person in front of you. You're talking to them. Now you are shifting into online and over the phone and chat and email. How can you, how would I say, perpetuate that experience without having that bandwidth? The bandwidth is much narrower. That falls into really training your staff, the customer service team, customer care team, bring their level way up to be able to answer questions efficiently in a timely fashion, and also transfer that knowledge that they have about the product to the customer in a friendly way, in an educational way.
Yeah, you bet. Natalie, what are your thoughts on this? Where do you fall here?
Yeah, I think for us at the FT, I would say it's very much the finding and driving new efficiencies that are our biggest priority. They are interlinked, like you said, but I think we've seen a shift in what customers are contacting us about, and a big increase in the volume of customers contacting us. So that's really put the pressure on us to make sure we're being as efficient as possible, and where it's kind of drawing a spotlight to those areas where we're not quite as efficient, what can we do quickly to adapt to that, and make sure we keep up that really high level of customer care.
Yeah, you bet. And again, it's about driving the answers that our customers are looking for. So I'd say that tied for first place on this poll is the home working adaption too. It wasn't number one, but surely it's right up there. So Martin, I'm wondering, back to you now, moving to this working from home, this new paradigm that we have. It's a big shift for a lot of folks. I know you have some experience with this, but how did you manage that shift in the mindset among your teams to working from home in this new model?
Yeah, Nicholas. Yeah, thanks. Again, it's great to be here today. I hope that everyone who's listening today is safe and healthy and in a good spot, and really appreciate this opportunity. Yeah, shifting the mindset was indeed a balancing act. I mean, not only were we sitting there trying to move people to a work from home model, you have a pandemic, you have an organization that's going through major shifts, you have customers calling and asking for support, so no real big deal as you try to move through this and navigate it. One of the benefits that we had at BCLC was we had started some initial groundwork to really look at work from home and what that could look like. And we targeted the customer support center to be kind of the group that started that, the catalyst of it. And who would have thought 9 months ago something that we started in infancy would grow to be what it is today? Not that we were predicting the future, but I think it really helped us kind of pull us together to get us going in that right direction. So we started this with a small subset, and then from work from home, we didn't really want to look at it like it was here's a laptop and here's a phone and go home. We really wanted to put some good thinking behind it and what that could look like. And so what we really started to do was target 3 key areas as we went down this path, looking at work from home, and look at it from a good perspective and a good lens. First off, we really want to start off with just looking at it and creating a safe and healthy experience for our employees. As part of this all was derived from our employee and customer experience strategy, we really want to put the effort behind it to do the right steps. So what I mean by that is when people go and work from home, a home, as many of us have found out today, is built for comfort. And your office is really built for efficiency and productive. So we really wanted to make sure that people who are going to work from home were going into an environment that they could be productive in. It wasn't stuck in the corner of a basement with no windows, but we want to make sure that that was safe for them, but also ergonomically and set up for them to be productive. We also really want to understand from a socially safe experience that they were having. And so what I mean by that is we want to take this to another level and really understand the social aspects of taking people out of the work environment and putting them in work from home, and also understand what they were going to be going through while they're at this work from home model. 3 key pieces really helped align us as we looked at that, and things that you're hearing a lot today in the news, as we were looking at it about 9 months ago, was really understanding the impact to individuals when it comes from a loneliness standpoint, isolation, and also from just being engaged. And not engagement from a corporate standpoint, but more of engaged to say, am I excited to start my day each day that I come in and start work? And really, we want to take a look at those. We pulled a lot from different studies that were done across Europe and also within the UK, which is really interesting how they came up with their the loneliness minister and the research that was done behind that. So we pulled some information from that. And what we found through that research, we were able to pull together some surveys and also some focus groups with our people as we went through it to really understand what they were going through. Interesting enough, through part of the research is that you found out is for loneliness, it really was highest within millennials, and isolation was highest within leaders and managers as they went through in workplaces. So we want to take all that and make that all part of the insight that we could get. Through our surveying and what we looked at, we really pulled in a lot of good understanding to know that the workforce that we had today was very highly engaged, really well connected, and just overall a great group of people that were just striving for the best results. So, but we wanted to make sure that we didn't lose that as we went to work from home. And a lot of the things we put in place helped us today as we're in our work from home model. Things like video chats in the morning. As you start your day, your leader is there to give you a video chat to welcome you in the morning. We call them drive-by video chats, where just like you're walking in the hallway, you get a chance to walk by someone, you get a chance to pick up the video chat and give them a call and just see how they're doing. What it really helps bring is that connection to people and really show that appreciation for what people are doing and how they're working. And I think it really brought a lot of good context and where people were feeling that they were starting to feel disconnected in this work from home model as they're sitting alone. And I think the third part that we really wanted to look at, Nicholas, is we really wanted to take a look at what would be the environmental footprint or reducing that footprint going forward. No matter how small, I mean, we truly believe that no matter how small the impact we can make, at least we're making some impact. When we live in a town that's only about 100,000 people, the town is not big, but at least we could sit there and do a good study on what that impact would be. And through we've already had a nice savings of about 24,000 kilometers worth of reduction, and also a good reduction within liters and CO2. So being able to pull that in knows that we're doing the right things and we're doing it in the right direction, and we're helping our employees combat with that. And I think what we really found out is that the benefits that we found from working from home have been substantial. I think that this pandemic has really changed the organization as it looks to work from home, which has been good. What might have took us months, if not a year, to get into place, we were able to do it within months, which is really nice to see.
Yeah, Martin, that's great. If everybody had the chance to have been, and I know you wouldn't call yourself prescient because it's not like you predicted that this is where we would end up, but how fortunate in an odd way that you'd kind of already laid some of that groundwork. So good for the BCLC and good fortune to you. I'd like to hear what the other panelists have to say about this, Natalie, about how you're managing that shift, or have you, and where you are in that process, and maybe some things that stick out to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a huge change at a contact center level for us to move into remote working, because for most of our regional teams, we really are together in a shared contact center office space. So this has been a real shift for the agents and for also the seniors and the managers leading those teams. So it's really been a work in progress, and it still is. But I think the regular check-ins, one-to-one, we do what we call pulse sessions, where it's just a quick 10-15 minutes between a senior and the agent, just to make sure they're comfortable, their technology is working okay, they're handling the pressure, because we are handling increased volumes across all of our contact centers at the moment. So I just think it's really the personal touch that I think is helping us weather this storm, and just making sure the teams are doing their own kind of social activities among themselves as well, to keep their motivation high, because everyone's work from home situation is very different.
Yeah, sounds, Natalie, like you're re-emphasizing the important human connections that you have in your teams already existing, right?
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Cool. All right, well, let me bring Rami into this. I want to ask this question of him as well, and then I want to expand on it a little bit. But before we get into that, let me just emphasize that we're recording this, so if anybody wants to come back and check it out later, that will be available, and Scott will be sending out that link. And also, for that matter, if you're interested in asking any of the panelists any specific questions, go ahead and type those into the comment section there, and we'll get to those as well as we can. But now over to Rami. I want to ask you what your thoughts on that shift from home are, and I also want to ask you specifically, how are you empowering your teams to work in this way? So how did you manage that shift, and what are you putting in place to make this more smooth and to better empower your teams?
So I agree with Martin. Actually, one of the things that we implemented right away is those daily check-ins, video check-ins in the morning. I do it actually with my team, with the team leads, and the team leads are doing it also with their groups respectively. We're really pushing the high touch internally, not only with our customers, but internally. We want them to feel connected. We want the team to feel connected, and we are truly working hard at that. It's not easy, but we are adapting to it. Like, this is what is required from us at this moment. But all in all, like, basically preparing for this was key. We had the culture of working from home is already kind of in place, so we were prepared in terms of tools, programs, accessibility, and it started early on. From the minute I arrived at my job and previous jobs, I always kind of like engage with the infrastructure team, asking them. Every time I see a server, I feel like I'm a little annoyed, and I'm like, why do we have this? Like, can I access this without going through a VPN? And if the answer is no, I'm asking why. So, having a cloud, right now we are all living in a cloud environment, so you can access everything and anything from anywhere virtually. Of course, there are some privacy issues, and there's some, you will get some pushback on certain things, but truly with the evolution of security and safety in the cloud services, we're able to grant that accessibility to all team members. And then having that business continuity audit is very critical and important, not only internally with your team if you have an in-house team, but also with your BPO, making sure that this audit, if it didn't take place, already took place. Most companies, they do an audit for business continuity for natural disasters, and COVID-19 is no different than that. But if that didn't happen, definitely something everybody should consider and should work on. I mean, right now, regardless of the location of your BPO, whether it's in the States or near shore, offshore, pretty much all countries are under some sort of lockdown. So the transition was smooth because we've thought of that ahead of time, and that the team felt empowered, and the transition was actually smooth. And we were on a rotation anyway. We would have people work from home regularly, just to make sure that when this moment happens, we're able to accommodate. And I see actually this evolving,
Yeah, it's good to have some of that infrastructure in place. And you speak about your BPO. Some of those BPOs actually do that anyway. And I know some folks even have, for example, their contact centers dispersed and working from home as it is. Again, kind of as Martin was saying, that they had just gone through this transition and this investigation into working from home. Some folks were kind of set up that way altogether. Natalie, without necessarily having to get into how FT runs their internal operations, what are your thoughts on this and empowering and putting the tools and things in place for your team to excel in situations such as this?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely made us look at technology in ways perhaps we hadn't looked at a contact center level before. Even just things around how the teams can communicate with each other. You know, before you just run over to someone's desk, and now you can't do that. So yeah, I mean, we've really taken advantage of chat functionality and video hangouts, and you know, shared docs and all those kind of things to try and make sure everyone's got visibility of what's going on, and yeah, use the technology to our advantage as best we can.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Martin, what are your thoughts on that? We went through a bit of your background on the preparations y'all had done, but what about the tools and so forth that you're leveraging now?
Yeah, technology has really become a dependency for us. So
for good or bad, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So for Skype and for Teams has been some big pieces that we've really used to help stay connected with each other. There's also some really when it comes to out of crises comes opportunity for a lot of developers. So they're coming up with some really cool pieces of technology out there. Fun Retro is a really good way for people to brainstorm, especially when you're looking at agile methodologies and being able to go in there and do a bunch of pieces, and also give people the ability to go in and provide input, even when you can't walk by to see them at the desk or everybody's at different shifts. It gives them an opportunity to go in and do so, which has given us a lot of good insight when we're implementing new technologies, particularly when we're looking at, hopefully within the next month or so, launching our new chatbot, which we would have done in a couple of months before. But
sure.
Being able to get that in place in the next month or so is really going to help.
Yeah, great chatbots. I think this is going a lot to Maria's question. She's asking what sort of tools people are using to connect customers on the front end, and then linking agents, on the back end. So I think this is helpful too. Another good question comes in from Zoe. It's kind of fun, perhaps, but we'll go around the horn and see what the panelists think about this. Zoe asks, how are you approach agents working with kids at home? If we're on a conference call, it's one thing. The kid shows up in the background in Zoom or whatever, but you've got your frontline agents speaking to folks. Customers of yours. Let's kind of get a feel of that. Rami, what are your thoughts on that? Kids working at home or folks working with kids at home as agents?
I mean, I'm a parent of 2 kids. So one of them is 6 and the other one is 1. So totally, like, you will hear a screaming baby at one point. Maybe not today. She's taking a nap. But in any case, that happened. I think for the frontline people and my team, they also have families, and I think, to be quite honest, right now customers are kind of forgiving, and I think they are forgiving. They're understanding that people are shifting into this new environment where you are working from home, but I'm not sure for how long this understanding will be. In my mind, the cutoff will be the minute schools open or daycares open up. That's it, it's game over. Basically everybody understand, like, maybe you'll be able to arrange some sort of care for your kid, but in the time being, I think customers are forgiving. Of course, you need to encourage your team members to have as much of a work environment as possible. Flexibility, you need to show flexibility with their scheduling. Make sure if they need some support, then they need some time off the phones, that's available. Like, we need to also, as leaders of the organization, need to show flexibility to make sure they are able to succeed. So that's how I see it for the time being. In the future, and I see a question that is great, like, will home working stay forever? In my opinion, I don't see like a world where we go back to the complete normal and we're going all back to the office. It will be really modulated, and therefore I think working from home will be very, very normalized and therefore job descriptions, I believe, will change. The questions will be asked is, I can imagine a question like, do you have high-speed internet, and how does it look? You know, your work, your office from home, how does that look? I don't know how legal that is to ask. I mean, these are for I think these are legitimate questions that need to be discussed and to be put on the table, because that is going to come up, and this is the new reality, and that's how it's going to evolve to. That's in my opinion, and I believe that's something we need to start thinking about right away.
Yeah, you know, Remy, I love that approach, because surely the new normal, I'm making the little quotes with my fingers when I say the new normal, right? It's certainly going to be some sort of combination of things that were before. Some things will never go away, but then obviously it's not like it's going to be suddenly like this the way it is right now all the time. And I love your thought about people, your customers having forgiveness for you, and they recognize, and so this sort of thing, but it's not going to last forever, right? I'd like to ask Martin and Natalie each. Martin first, what do you think about that? What's going to endure? Like, what's different now that will endure, that will be part of what that new normal is? And some things are just like, they're going to have to go back to the way they were. There's just no way of getting around it. Kind of asking you to be a bit of a futurist now.
Oh, futurist. Got to pull up my tarot cards again. I think when you know, a lot of the things, work from home, I completely agree, is going to be a new normal for us. And I agree with Rami that the customers today are very forgiving. Usually in times of crises, when things are ballistic, when it comes to frontline customer support, you see experience scores go down, and you see stress levels go up and feedback go bad. We're seeing the exact opposite. We're seeing customer sentiment go high. So there's a lot of compassion in the world today, which is great. But how that changes tomorrow will be completely different. I think when we've looked at it, Nicholas, is the work from home. We were about 5% of our staff were work from home. We'll probably see closer to 30-40% of our staff are just continuously at home. And I think that how that work design happens on the office, how we're sitting, how we're elongated. Many of you have worked in support centers. They're built for efficiency and high utilization of floor space. That's going to change a lot. And how does that impact us going forward is really an interesting thought process and question about how we're going to see that, not only from our own worlds, but also from third-party vendor worlds, and how that's going to impact those things.
Yeah, you bet. It's interesting. I was just noticing something, I think on Twitter the other day. Somebody was making a joke about how, with the default being working from home, possibly as part of the picture of how things look into the future, that now the little note on your Outlook is going to say WFO on those occasions when you actually go into the office instead of stay at home, right? So,
Yeah.
Natalie, what are your thoughts on this? What's changing that's going to stay different, and you know, what do we see that might endure from this different way that we're doing it temporarily here?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that we are looking more towards having a mix, you know, and much greater flexibility of agents perhaps working a few days a week in the office and a couple of days at home, because there's definitely some benefits from a kind of a workforce planning side, because for those people who've got children and other responsibilities, we're able to kind of offer them almost like a split shift. You know, so if they're taking care of the children in the morning, they can do an afternoon evening shift that actually may not have been as easy to do in the office. Or they can spend the morning working and come back and do a few hours in the evening. So there's some really good flexibility to the work from home situation. But like Martin said, we've seen our customer satisfaction and sentiment improve because people really are compassionate. And we've even got customers asking our agents, I hope you're working from home and you're not in a contact center. And
Yeah.
I think this time has kind of forced us to prove that it is doable from home. But I guess to manage people's motivation, enthusiasm, and to feel part of the team, for us, it seems like it will very much be a mix. of doing a bit of both.
You know, Natalie, I like that point about the show of concern between your customers and your agents. I mean, it's kind of like we're all in this together, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Jennifer asked a question I think that's similar to that, and Rami, I want to get your thoughts on it. She asks about, she says, how do you encourage shy employees to be more active in team chats? I guess it's about team members now interacting in a different way. What are your thoughts on that?
We listen. We have icebreakers, and we prepare them. The team, that works in the team leads, they have those icebreakers. Today, I'm gonna have a touch point with the team, like with the team members at 3 o'clock, and the icebreaker will be, what was the last series you binge watched? So that's, you have to answer that. You need to find ways to engage them, ask fun questions, and we need to be humorous about it. And as the leader of the organization, I like to make fun of myself on camera, because that's the way, break the ice. Like, my daughter will jump in, the 6-year-old, she will come into the camera and, like, have a silly thing to say, and it's fine. I mean, that's the real life that we are in right now. So I think leading by example, showing that it's not too serious, because on camera people get shy. I get it. But preparing, having those icebreakers, having those kind of simple questions, simple games that goes like round robin around the table, or there's no table around the virtual room. Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody kind of have to say a little something.
Yeah. Well, and it's that good mixture of being, as a leader, unflappable, but also human, and bringing the teams into this new environment, and they see you a bit more comfortable with what's going on. That'll help them as well, right?
Absolutely. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, we have to be realistic, and show them how things work.
Yeah, great. Martin, what are your thoughts on that? Just generally speaking, about bringing your teams from that personal interactive perspective into this new environment, and how are you helping to enable that?
Yeah, we've done some shifting. Our team's very engaged and very collaborative, and they had a committee that was formed from frontline reps that they used to call the Buzz Committee, which was all part of really pulling together great ideas, mostly around holidays and events. As most of you know, potluck dinners are usually big in sites. That's why working from home has helped the waistline. But they do a lot of pulling in great ideas, so they've actually pivoted a lot to now doing online pieces, where they're doing online bingo games. They're also doing bad haircut pieces. They're having a lot of fun trying to get people engaged. We've also started some initial conversations, because YouTubers are big. So we've tried to encourage some of our staff to become that as well. So people are big in photography, and they're also big at baking. So how about being able to utilize them to be able to have those conversations, and bringing people into a Skype meeting and say, let's talk about photography and what I can teach you. So now you're pushing them to be teachers, and a lot of people want to learn different hobbies as they're in this situation. So it's really opened up a good community of practice, so to speak, to have people talking amongst each other.
Yeah, you bet. I guess in that sense, it's those age-old policies and practices of good leadership in the first place, right, Martin?
Yeah, exactly.
Natalie, would you agree with that? And if so, how are you applying those age-old practices in this new environment?
Yes, definitely. We have we're lucky to have a talent manager whose role has really, I guess, come into the spotlight at a time like this, and we've been doing some great things to just focus on the personal side of things. So we're doing things like a weekly spotlight, where she will interview someone in the team, and we put a nice little newsletter together, just to keep people, learning about each other and seeing people in the weekly spotlight. And she's also doing things where she links up to people from 2 different contact centers in a different part of the world, and we encourage them to have a virtual coffee break, and lots of quizzes, just lots of fun things, photography contests, art contests, just nice things like that, just to keep morale high and just keep that human element alive, really.
Yeah, brilliant. That's a lot. It's basically team building, and it's just by somewhat different means,
Just
right?
virtually, yeah.
Yeah, you bet. I'm going to shift now. Lisa asked a question that actually is in line with something that I was going to ask about. She says, how have management and procedural processes changed? And Natalie, that was along the lines of a question that I wanted to ask about not just necessarily the tactical, everybody's working here instead of here and so forth, but what are the bigger picture changes that you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say there's two kind of real standout things as far as what we've reprioritized as a result of the pandemic, and we've had these things on our roadmap for some time, but this situation has just really pushed them forward. So one of them is around self-serve functionality. So one of the biggest things customers ask us for is the ability to be able to manage their subscription themselves online, whether that be change from one product to another or to cancel their subscription. It's always been possible at a trial level. So if you're trialing our digital subscription, but for actual subscriptions that are not in the trial period, it has been something customers have had to contact us about. And the volume of subscribers that we've had as a result of the pandemic has definitely increased tremendously as more and more people are reading our content, which is fantastic, but it's really put the pressure on us to deliver on that self-serve functionality. So we've actually gone live with that within the last week to 2 weeks, when before it wasn't yet on the roadmap. And similarly, we have been designing a chatbot with a plan to launch that in the summer. And again, given the volume of people contacting us, we've really just gone, pushed this to, I guess, get an MVP of our chatbot and have something immediately that helps manage that volume at a more effective level than without it. We'll perfect it and we'll get better by the summer, but for now, it's absolutely been something we've had to shift forward to tackle the challenge up front.
Yeah. So it sounds like what you had is, I wouldn't call it desperate times, but surprising times. Sudden change has driven you to shift some of your priorities of things that were on your roadmap, moved them forward, and some things that you'd never even considered are now on your roadmap, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yes. They've kind of been nice things to be working on and to be planning and to be designing and to really be working out the best version of these journeys, but we've really been forced to bring that forward and get the MVP up and running.
Yeah. Martin, are you noticing that at BCLC as well, where you're having a bit of a shift in your prioritization of the projects that perhaps were already on your scope or new things popping up?
Yeah, there's been a lot of the things I talked a little bit about chatbots before. We were pushing it out. Now it's kind of sped up for our support center to be top of mind for us. We articulated and changed a lot of our training programs and sped up and did some new ingenious things on how we get our people trained up to get them out quicker. And as an organization as a whole, we've seen a change in our player has been driving more to online, where they're mostly in our land-based casinos. So now the organizational mind shift has been changing, but now it just kind of really expedited that to how can we now, instead of having multiple players across multiple streams, we can now view them more closely as one player playing multiple games, and giving that whole player perspective mentality change and how we now look at our players across the board.
Yeah, you mentioned training, Martin, and Bruce asks actually a question about that, how you're adapting your training. Would you want to share a little bit more if you've thought about it, if you have something to share about how you're doing training internally?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a class that was all our classes are at our site, and they run about 3 to 4 weeks of onboard training, and we've done them always in a sequential way, have for years. COVID hit. We were the first 3 days. We actually had just started our training class when COVID hit, so everyone had to vacate. So we took a couple days off and we re-engineered the entire training program. The training team did a fantastic job just looking at how we could do it now virtually and take all these people and now start to train them virtually. How would we do that and how would we accomplish that? We also pulled in some data points to say, with the volume shift and how customers are contacting us, what's the best way for us to train them to get them out quicker? That would help the front line, and then we could pull them back in. So almost we broke up that sequential piece, flipped it on its head, and then trained what we train on the back end first because it was the easiest to get people out supporting the front line, and then we're pulling them back in to do continuous ed training as we go along. It's helped out immensely because now we've seen that happen and getting them out there to do it. And I think what we're probably going to find, which will be an odd output, is that we're going to have probably better performing people on the back end of it, just because of the way we looked at it completely different than before.
Yeah, necessity being the mother of invention. Great, Martin. Thanks.
Yeah.
Natalie, do you have any changes that you're aware of or that you want to share about training as well, to answer Bruce's question?
Yeah, similar to Martin, really. It's looking at how we re-engineer our training, and it's been something that's been in consideration for a while because we don't have trainers necessarily in every regional location that our contact centers are. So it's been something that we've needed to focus on. But yes, just re-engineering them to work more effectively remotely is definitely in play, and revisiting what our onboarding programs look like, because of course they have always been done face to face for the most part. So yeah, it's really just a case of re-engineering and seeing how we can be more creative, keep it interactive. One of the great things for training for us is around role play, which is still doable virtually. If you're on a video chat, you can still benefit from that role play activity. So yeah, it's really just structuring things differently and reassessing how much time is spent, because it's also very difficult, of course, to have an agent on a video conference for the entire day training. So it's really restructuring where time is spent and how long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. So shifting back over here, Suhail asks a question that I guess probably could be a pretty quick hit. Natalie, I'll start with you about this. And if you're even in a position necessarily to answer this, the question is, do you compensate workers to help them set up a home office? And how do you suppose that could even be handled?
Yes, good question. We've actually been shipping a lot of technology equipment to our agents. So all our agents have a laptop, but actually in the contact center environment, it's quite normal that you've got multiple screens because you're looking at multiple systems. So actually we've invested a lot in getting monitors and IT equipment sent to our agents' homes to be able to really set up that ideal workspace environment so they can comfortably support the customers, but also know that they're supported from us. So yes, that's been a financial investment on our side, but absolutely one we needed to do.
Great, good perspective, Martin. Or how are you folks up at BCLC approaching that?
Yeah, we were along the same lines like Natalie was saying. We invested some time in the beginning to look at what an installment kit, we called it, would look like. The teams did some great job on just understanding the technology requirements. So we were able to pre-package. At first, we were going to people's houses and actually installing them and helping them out to get them set up and get them in place. But when this all happened, we changed our model. We had to actually build a self-help book on how to do it. So the team did some great visual concepts on what to connect and how to connect. So multiple monitors, laptops, docking stations, all those were sent to each of the individuals. Our facilities team also was very gracious because people grow really attached to their office chairs. So they were actually able to put in a request to actually come and pick up their office chair, which are not light by any means. So they're hauling them into their trunks and then taking them home. And, it's a creature comfort that helps them through it, because office chairs are actually really expensive. And it's just that one little piece to help them. It's that connectedness, because not only are you seeing people online, now you have that comfort of your chair as well. That really kind of helps smooth things over.
Yeah, it's like a piece of home in your home, isn't it, Martin?
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that actually leads into a new question, but I did want to at least mention, though, before anybody starts wondering and worrying about Rami, he had to step off for another call. Given all that's going on, that's kind of what is happening these days, and we're all just kind of having to work on the fly here. So if anybody's worried, it's that he had to take another call. But Martin, along those same lines, Steve is actually asking, and I think this kind of plays into that, because I think, I don't know what it's like up in Canada, right? But but in the United States, I could see company having a liability question about that, and hold on, that actually belongs to us here, big company incorporated. Steve asks, how do you work through the empathy and the trust? His specific question is, he'd like to hear how trusting the panel is of their staff. And I think that kind of plays a lot into this. So you're really letting a lot of control go when you say to your staff, nope, you're all going home, go home and work from home, right? So you didn't have that choice now. So whether you trusted them or not, this is the normal as we have it right now. But how is that working out for you? Martin, go ahead with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question, Steve. The one of the pieces that we uncovered while we started this, working from home, and one of the things we unearthed, I guess you could say, through our conversations, was exactly that. That trust factor is something that's hard to measure, but it plays such a critical role in work from home. There's a lot to be said for people that go and work from a leader standpoint. It's like, how do I know they're working from home? How do I know they're actually, in air quotes, actually working from home and not laying on their couch? So a lot of things that we put in place with the daily check-ins really helped kind of give that sense of feeling back and forth to each other. But also we had some really good discussion at the leader level about how they have to extend that trust. If they want their employees to trust them as leaders, then the leaders need to trust their employees, and how you have to make sure to put that forward to be able to do it. It's not as measurable, but it's more, it's not spiritual either. I can't think of the word right now, but you have to really build that bridge across each and every one. From a frontline rep perspective, metrics are metrics. They're easy to understand and see the level of work that they're doing. But once you extend a ladder of trust, it's amazing how much they surprise you. We're seeing people far exceed levels of performance we'd seen before, and more apt to jump in and do something. Now, mind you, like everywhere, you can't go out and do anything. So what else are you going to do? But you're going to hop in and help out work. Your options are limited. But it's just amazing when you give people the opportunity and believe in them, what they can do. And I think Natalie talked a little bit about it before. It's then when you're seeing people what they're doing, and then you're recognizing them for that, then they're more apt to play all part of it. And it's a collaborative team to get you there that really helps that.
Yeah, you bet. Trust begets trust for sure, Martin, I always say, and it has to start somewhere. And it's so much easier to make the exception when somebody takes advantage than it is to put out a blanket, thou shalt not, and nobody's allowed to, and then make exceptions, because it's a lot easier to, or it's a lot more challenging to justify those exceptions when you go that other direction, the typical direction. Yeah, Natalie, what are your thoughts on this and trust, and how you're interacting with your team from that empathetic way now?
Yes, definitely. I would share a lot of what Martin has described. I think the one-to-ones are even more important than they were when we were in the office. So really committing to that time with each individual in the team, and at a team level, whether it be just team huddles and things like that. I think that's a really great way to build that trust. And I also think, we're still trying to maintain a level of normality as far as scorecards and measuring KPI performance and just keeping that in front of mind, I think is definitely helping the agents see that they're doing a great job despite the circumstances. So I think, regularly visiting those and calling out a job well done despite the circumstances, and where we're even seeing improvements in KPI performance, really drawing attention to that and making sure we're taking the moment to thank people as individuals. We're doing a lot of call outs, in contact center wide emails to say, hey, look at some of this amazing feedback we're seeing, well done, and being really personalized in our approach to that. I really think is a great way to build up the trust and make sure people aren't feeling lost, like the work they're doing is going unnoticed because they're not seen. So I think those kind of things really help to do that.
Right. It sounds to me like what you're saying, what you and Martin are both saying, is a lot of those fundamentals are still fundamental, and it's just a matter of trying to manifest them in this new world in which we find ourselves, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Stephanie talks about how, for example, she's doing these virtual coffee breaks. Like, well, these are things that always happened before. You're just finding a new way to do it now, right?
Yeah,
And
and I
Steve,
think carving out the time to have personal conversations that you otherwise would have in the lunchroom or at the coffee machine is really important.
Yeah, Martin, you were jumping in there to say something too.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't condone it, but they're really fun to join. Is the Friday after work quarantinis? Not that I would condone them. They're really fun to join though.
You can pour
But I
water
think
in the martini, Martin. Sure.
Exactly. But I think it's for teams, it's a really great opportunity, and for people to get together to actually to reflect on the week. I mean, we tend to forget so much happens in a week, even though you're at your home. So much is getting accomplished and being done that you forget the small things. And during times like quarantinis or whatever you want to call them, at the Friday afternoon or Friday after 5 o'clock, is an opportunity to really sit back and just, as a leadership group, is just reflect on the goodness that happened in the week and be thankful for what that is, and what obstacles did you overcome. It's a great opportunity as individuals to come together and just reflect on those times, because they're only by acknowledging them and looking at them, they're only going to help you in the weeks to come. And I think it just builds a stronger leadership team, but also helps support everyone who's part of the team in general.
Yeah, and these are ends, Martin, that you're looking for as a leader in the first place. It's just having to take a different route towards that because you're in a different situation, right? And that
Exactly.
speaks to another really important thing about leadership, and that's being agile and being able to adapt to these new things. Natalie, you and I kind of nerded out a little bit about about agile, and I was on a webinar about that just yesterday. Do you want to talk just real briefly? Let's just ping on it about a little bit of what Agile is and how we can apply some of those principles to where we find ourselves now.
Yes, definitely. So I guess that question at the top of the session with the poll, being more efficient, that's definitely been something that's taken a spotlight for us. So we've had not only an increase in the number of people contacting us, but we're seeing a real shift in the channels in which people are choosing to use. So before it may have been much more heavily phone. Now we're seeing a real growth in the number of people chatting with us. So it's meaning we're really having to quickly adapt to managing those channels and moving agents from one channel to another to make sure we're staffing the chat channel as it grows more efficiently. Likewise, we've had to look at what work is being done by frontline staff that actually is not a good use of their time, and where in fact should that be sitting. Whether that's a administrative task, a back office functionality, but we're quickly having to maneuver that to make sure frontline staff are in the right place at the right time. And that's even meant things like getting our training and quality team on the front line handling some cases because the volume is there. So yeah, we're having to be as agile as can be, adapting to those changes.
Yeah, you bet. Everything's different, but everything's still the same in the sense that business still has to get done, right?
Right.
Yeah. Martin, what are your thoughts on that and being agile and being adaptable to this?
Yeah, it's played a really significant role in us lately, even more so than it was before. A lot of our BT teams are working in an agile environment, and a lot of them were just starting to spin up as this all took place. And what we found is some really good quick wins, because as people are becoming more closer, they've become closer to the business and what we're doing. And plus, when you lose about a third, 2/3 of your business because of COVID, there's a lot of people saying, "How can we help?" which has really helped them jump in. And the CRM team has an agile group for Salesforce. They've gone in and made some just ingenious changes that really help speed up our reps and what they do from resolution and casework. They've looked at that and said, well, these are easy to fix steps that are taking too long to do today, and jump in, make the change, put it back out to the reps, and they've made those changes and seen just huge successes and just great feedback coming back from the team, because now they feel so much more supported in what they're trying to do and what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, you bet. I guess for the nerds among us, that minimum viable product means something different in this day and age than it did before.
Yeah, absolutely. And people are more willing to accept minimal viable products to at least test it, because you're not doing anything now, so you can't hurt by trying something different.
Yeah,
so why not try it and see what it gets?
Yeah, I was at a conference at the beginning of March, the last in-person conference that'll ever happen, it seems, right? And somebody had said to me, we could really get away with a lot right now as far as just trying stuff, because with everything up in the air, we can always say, well, at least we were trying something, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so we're getting up towards the top of the hour. This has been a great conversation. I want to wrap it up with one kind of exit question to Martin and Natalie both. And I'm going to put it out there and see what you have to say about it. It's one surprising thing that you've done through all of this that's a benefit to your customer that you might not have considered had it not been for what's going on right now. Natalie, I think you alluded to one, but I give you an opportunity to put a bow on it here. Yeah.
Yes, I would say we've got a great example of that. We have what's called the FTE paper. It's a digital replica of the printed newspaper. And we've heard feedback from customers before that it's difficult to find on the website. They're not sure where to go to read it. And in this situation, we've got a lot of our print subscribers who normally would be receiving the newspaper that perhaps have suspended it or can't get it at the office where they normally would, and are therefore really trying to locate this e-paper. So we actually did a great piece of work that we never would have normally done by making that product available in a different in a different system. Basically, we've made it available in our Manage My Account tool that our newspaper subscribers use. And that was, of course, a big bit of technology work. So we did that pretty quickly, and it's had a great result for our customers because they can go to one place and find everything there.
Brilliant. Great. And everybody go out and subscribe to FT, right?
Yes, please.
Martin, 30 seconds. What's something that has changed that you all are doing now to benefit your customer that might not have happened if it hadn't been for all of this?
Yeah, a great thing has come up with our online gaming, our Play Now site, as people have been flocking to it to register instead of having to go out and play our games. Part of that registration process, if there's challenges, it'd be a manual process. The team has got together with the Play Now team and helped use technology now for something that wouldn't have been used so much before, wasn't really that excited about, but now we're using more technology pieces to help expedite that process, to get players to be able to enjoy the games quicker, and helps reduce them, especially in this day of age, stops them from going out into the public to purchase lottery tickets or et cetera. It's helped expedite that process and help really improve the player experience.
Side experiences or side effects being good. That's all right. Excellent. Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Martin and Natalie, both. Rami, who will surely listen to the recording of this to find out what happened since he's been gone. Thanks as well to him. Scott, I think the pandemonium of the call is just about over. I'll pass it back over to you.
Yep, thank you, Nicholas. Well, like you said, that wraps up our webinar for today. I hope everyone found that as informative as I did. I certainly learned a lot from the wealth of useful insights that were on offer today. I would like to take a quick moment to thank each of our great panelists, Natalie, Martin and Rami, for lending us their time and expertise today. And of course, thank you to our wonderful, as usual, moderator, Nicholas, for steering this ship. Finally, I would like to thank everyone listening in for their great questions and interaction in the chat. You really asked some great questions and drove discussion into an interesting way today. Up next from the Insight Group, we have a great webinar on May 7th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time entitled How CX and Customer Service Will Be Forever Changed by COVID-19. We'll be joined by great speakers from MasterCard, Shaw Pet Care, Sodexo, and the Data and Marketing Association. And it wouldn't be an Insight webinar without welcoming back our moderator extraordinaire, Nicholas Zeisler. We'll be sending the sign-up details for this in the same email as today's recording, so do keep an eye out for that in your inbox to ensure that you don't miss out. Thank you from all of us at Insight Group and Reuters Events, and we hope to see you again soon.
Great.
Have a great
Thanks
day.
for having us.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Be safe, all.